In October 2025, a Pentagon contract amendment added Pakistan to the list of potential recipient countries for the AIM-120C-8D-3 Advanced Medium Range Air to Air Missile. Media headlines were filled with shock and speculation. Has Pakistan turned to the US? And is the China Pakistan friendship cracking? India's Ministry of External Affairs was one of the first to issue a strong protest to Washington, calling it a blatant act that undermines regional stability. Within 48 hours, the US State Department, through its embassy in India, rushed to issue a high-profile clarification. It stressed that this contract only covers maintenance and parts support for Pakistan's existing US-made weapons stockpile and does not include any new missile deliveries or capability upgrades. Soon after the most striking line in the Pentagon's original announcement, delivery to Pakistan quietly disappeared from the official database. One moment the name was on the shipment list, the next officials publicly claimed they were only sending parts, not the missiles themselves. It seems that after May 7th air battle, the Pakistani Air Force claimed use of the PL-15E missile still hasn't been widely adopted in its fleet. Otherwise, why would they be asking the US for AIM-120C-8D3 missiles? The underlying message is that the so-called unbreakable China-Pakistan military alliance has invisible boundaries and an expiration date when faced with cold technical standards and national interests. Number 1. Why didn't the trump card work? After May 7th air battle in 2025, Pakistan hailed its newly arrived J-10CE fighters and the PL-15E missiles as a trump card meant to match India's Rafale. They praised them like a game changer, yet they still turned to the United States asking for AIM-120 missiles. That looks redundant, but the reason is the swap isn't nearly as simple as it sounds. The effectiveness of modern air combat is a factor of the number of combat-capable aircraft, missile performance and quantity, command and control efficiency, and logistic readiness. Pakistan's China system runs into limits in every one of those factors. The best units are the 36J-10CEs. They are the ace hitters. Then there are more than 160 JF-17s in inventory. But about 90% of those are older Block 1 and Block 2 types. The radars and mission computers can't reliably handle firing the PL-15E. Only the newest 20 to 30 JF-17 Block 3s can keep up. The JF-17 is a light aircraft with a small frame. In theory, it can carry 4 PL-15Es. In practice, to get the missile's range, you would have to sacrifice dogfighting ability and combat radius. Realistically, each JF-17 Block 3 would carry 2 PL-15Es in a useful combat load. Now do the math. 36 J-10CEs times 4 missiles each equals 144 missiles. Assume 24 JF-17 Block 3s times 2 missiles each is 48 missiles. That totals 192 PL-15Es available in a single strike wave less than 200. That sounds like a lot, but it is their entire usable stock for one coordinated attack. In real systems level fighting, 192 missiles is still thin. Next problem, who directs them? AWACS are the airborne brain. Pakistan has 4 Chinese ZDK-03 early warning aircraft. A radar that can see hundreds of targets does not mean it can guide hundreds of simultaneous attacks. Effective guidance needs dense data links, secure communications, and heavy computing support. A modern AWACS that's at the top of its game can stably direct a dozen, maybe 20 beyond visual range engagements at once. Asking it to guide 50 simultaneous strikes is unrealistic. If only 2 ZDK-03s are on station, the practical limit is guiding a few dozen attacks at most. The remaining missiles end up waiting in the sky until the first wave finishes. This bottleneck in command efficiency greatly reduces the theoretical advantage of those nearly 200 missiles. The Pakistan Air Force is like a United Nations force. Its real backbone is the 75 US-made F-16s with more than 160 French Mirage fighters, and the 9 Swedish Erie-I early warning aircraft. This large Western system all talks to each other using NATO's common language, the Link 16 data link. The J-10CEs and the ZDK-03 form a separate Chinese system, and they use China's own data links. The two languages do not speak to each other. The J-10CE strike package, even though it's well equipped, cannot be seamlessly folded into the battle network led by F-16s and Mirages. An F-16 pilot can't see on his screen the target data that a J-10CE is locking. An Erie-I AWACS cannot directly task a J-10CE to attack a contact that it has found. The Chinese spearhead becomes an island. Being technically advanced is one thing, but being accepted and integrated by the whole battle system is another. So this much vaunted trump card gets stuck on three barriers: platform numbers, command efficiency, and system compatibility. It may shine on its own, but when the fight is about systems, individual strength still loses to coordinated mass. Why not just buy more? Three unmovable mountains. If the problem is so clear, isn't the fix simple? Buy what's missing. More AWACS, more J-10CEs. Build up the Chinese systems until it's big and strong. In reality, that idea is crushed by three big obstacles. First, the financial equation. Pakistan does not have the money. They already have 75 F-16s and 9 Erie-I AWACS, along with trained pilots, grouped crews, and maintenance facilities. All they need to do is buy AIM-120D missiles from the US. That's plug and play, the cheapest, fastest way to get compatibility. Buying Chinese systems is not just buying a missile. Adding a PL-15E combat capability means buying whole new J-10CE aircrafts. An aircraft costs tens of millions of dollars at minimum, and that comes with new weapons, new training programs, new spare part depots, new simulators, a whole system engineering bill. Anyone can do the math. Second, even if Pakistan suddenly had unlimited cash, they would not dare to fully pivot. The lifeline of those 75 F-16 software updates, vital spare parts, ammunition resupply is firmly in American hands. If Pakistan leaned too far towards Chinese weapons, Washington could cut supplies. US sanctions law like CAA-TSA is not an empty threat. Trigger it, and within months those F-16s could be grounded for lack of parts and maintenance. Third, and most practical, is the military's own absorption capacity. You can buy an airplane with money, but you cannot buy overnight the ace pilots and the seasoned ground crews who knew how to operate and maintain it. That takes years of training and hard experience. A mechanic who has spent his life fixing F-16 engines would not suddenly know which wrench to use on a J-10CE the next day. Finally, the PL-15E sold abroad is not identical to the ones that the PLA uses. Similarly, the AIM-120D sold to Pakistan isn't the same as the versions used on a US carrier. The unwritten rule of international arms trade is simple: exports are always a downgraded variant. So the real comparison Pakistan faces is the export PL-15Es versus the export AIM-120D. Both are downgraded versions, not the top-of-the-line models. When that's the case, whichever system is more mature, more reliable, larger in scale, and smoother in command will naturally have the edge. If Pakistan chooses a US option, it will spend little money, get an immediate effect, and double the combat power of the largest, most mature force cluster Pakistan already fields. If it chooses the Chinese option, it will spend a lot, see low results, and end up with a small spearhead that still has command limits and can't be fully absorbed by the main force. For Pakistan today, this isn't really a choice. Behind the friendship, cracks in cooperation. Even if we make the boldest assumptions, Pakistan suddenly gets rich, the United States stops caring, and logistic geniuses appear overnight. It still wouldn't be enough to make Pakistan fully embrace the Chinese option. Behind the rosy propaganda of friendship, a set of uncomfortable truth has long been an unspoken sore point in their defense ties. Take the proud product of that cooperation, the JF-17. It held as the backbone of Pakistan's Air Force, but in recent years it has repeatedly suffered quality scandals. Reports say a large number of JF-17s were grounded because cracks appeared in airframe panels. After high-G maneuvers, the lower fuselage skin and reinforcing ribs developed fractures. Then there's the Russians' heart of the jet, the RD-93 engine. It had persistent problems, higher than expected failure rates, and shorter life. That drags down the whole fleet's readiness. The Navy's experience is no better. Pakistan's Chinese-built F-22P frigates were supposed to be a success, but their FM-90N surface-to-air missile reportedly failed to lock target at critical moments, making them ineffective. The ship's engines also showed poor adaptation to local conditions. In the hot, sustained operations of the Arabian Sea, turbocharger exhaust temperatures ran too high. That limited engine RPM and seriously hurt ship maneuverability and combat performance. The ZDK-03 Karakoram Eagle, AWACS billed as an airborne command hub, has been labeled by some observers as a failure. After only about 12 years in service, reports said Pakistan planned to retire the whole fleet. Reports widely suggest that the ZDK-03 AWACS has major technical flaws and system compatibility issues. Its Chinese-made radar and avionics struggles to integrate efficiently with the US and Western systems already in Pakistan's Air Force. Even more striking, when China performed a mid-life upgrade on some of those aircrafts, the planes reportedly came back missing their core radar systems. The reasons behind this and the tug-of-war between both sides remain unclear, but it exposes the deep tensions in their cooperation over key technologies. Beyond hardware quality, the depth of technology transfer and the standard of after-sales support have also been long-standing frustrations for Pakistan. In the JF-17 project, although it is officially described as jointly developed, the core technology and design control have always stayed in Chinese hands. The Pakistan Aeronautic Complex, or PAC, plays a role that sounds like a partner on paper, but in reality functions more like an advanced assembly plant. Most of the key components, radars, avionics, materials still need to be imported from China. If China delays shipments if third-party sanctions disrupt supplies like what happened with the Russian RD-93 engine, the entire production and maintenance chain grinds to a halt. The result is that Pakistan has no autonomy over upgrades or improvements. Its defense capability depends entirely on someone else's supply chain. And above all, there's the invisible boundary of trust that stops a national interest. In recent years, as Pakistan's ties with the United States have gradually thawed, Beijing's trust in Islamabad has become more guarded. Reports say China refuses to sell Pakistan its most advanced DF-17 hypersonic missile. The main concern was that Pakistan's deep military connections with the US could risk leaking Chinese defense secrets to the West through the back door. This reluctance over top-tier weapon draws the clearest line yet in the limits of China-Pakistan military trust. Seen in this light, concerns over quality, anxiety over technological dependence, and a sober awareness of these trust limits, Pakistan has learned one thing very clearly: it cannot put all its eggs in one basket. That's why it must maintain military ties with the West. And that, in the end, explains the cold reality behind that small but telling moment when Pakistan's name quietly appeared and then quietly disappeared from the Pentagon's missile contract. Number 4. Behind the Rashomon, a carefully calculated trust stress test. Why did a seemingly harmless Pentagon contract amendment instantly set South Asian strategic opinion on fire? Because it wasn't a diplomatic slip-up at all, but a low-cost, high-information, multilateral trust stress test. Every player on the board used their own moves to probe others' limits and true intentions. The United States played two parts in this drama. The US played a dual role in the situation. The Pentagon, representing the military-industrial complex, deliberately allowed an amended contract to leak to gauge reactions from various countries. Its purpose was to assess whether New Delhi would respond with mere rhetoric or take action that could affect Indo-Pacific cooperation. This would help Washington understand the limits of its leverage over India. Similarly, the Pentagon sought to test Beijing's influence by observing whether China would publicly condemn the move, press privately, or remain silent, as it has done in the past. Islamabad's reaction was also crucial. It would reveal whether Pakistan would leverage the situation for bargaining with China. The State Department, on the other hand, waited until the intelligence gathered was clear, then used the US Embassy in India to clarify that the contract amendment was a misunderstanding involving only parts and maintenance, not new missile deliveries. While the Pentagon focused on probing responses, the State Department worked to maintain diplomatic stability and reassure allies. This back and forth maneuver allowed the US to gather valuable intelligence without committing to any significant military transactions, exemplifying information warfare. Pakistan emerged as the most proactive player. It used the crisis to signal its value in the geopolitical landscape. By expressing interest in purchasing AIM-120 missiles, Islamabad simultaneously sent three key messages. First, it reassured the US of its continued loyalty to the F-16 program, suggesting the possibility of restoring strained relations. Second, it warned India that its advanced Rafales and Meteor missiles were not invulnerable, offering a form of strategic deterrence. Most importantly, Pakistan emphasized to China that its security needs were diversified. While China remained an option, Islamabad signaled that it had alternatives if Chinese technology or performance fell short. In effect, Pakistan pressured Beijing to offer more advanced technology, more open interfaces, and greater flexibility in future cooperation. This was a textbook case of leveraging a small procurement signal to create outsized strategic leverage. A purchase intention with no missiles behind it still moved the whole South Asian geopolitical chessboard. China was the most passive and the most embarrassed observer. Its choice of silence was a complex strategic posture. Behind that quiet, Beijing was doing a hard internal calculus. Should it pressure Islamabad for explanation and accuse its iron brother of betrayal and potentially pushing Pakistan closer to the US? Or should it tolerate the behavior, which would be tantamount to admitting publicly that the China option is still not mature and has clear limits? That silence also reveals China's inexperience in handling centrifugal forces among its allies. In the end, a conflict with no missiles fired completed an extreme stress test of psychology, strategic reserves, and trust among the three parties. For Beijing, the test results was not encouraging.